Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 1 o'clock. A quorum of the board is present, and the State Board of Education meeting of January 8th, 2019 is called to order. Next part of our agenda is the public participation in the State Board of Education meeting. Marilyn, are there any individuals who wish to address the State Board of Education this afternoon?
There are. Is there anyone else who has a public participation for a public participation form that they'd like to turn in? Okay, then I will let you know that each person has 5 minutes. It's the practice of the board to not engage in a back and forth conversation, and they're happy to hear whatever it is you have to say. And we will start today with John Love, and then following him at the table will be Ellen Zwarstein and Michael Obuchi. And we're ready whenever you are.
Thank you. It's a new year and some new board members. So I wanted to come back and kind of review where we're at and what needs to happen ahead. First off, we have to fix the darn schools. In appropriate language. And I have an agenda here I'll review with you on some things that should be done. You need to start the meeting out with data that's on your agenda that highlights the Michigan rating in the United States of the Michigan schools. And that demonstrates the success or failure of the system. We're at the bottom. Then we need to find out, how did the top states do it? What is different in what they do in running their system that puts them at the top of the United States? And this 10 for 10 thing's a joke. It needs to be now, not next year, not maybe. I see the governor's not here, although the governor is a member of this commission, board, and the importance of education is more important than roads. It's more important than anything. And you people have the ability and authority to do it. I also gave you a copy of the Constitution. And in there it says you have general supervision over all public education. That's not just come to a meeting and hang out. That means you can set the theme of what is being done. And the superintendent does what you've directed them to do. That's not happening. It needs to be done. And here's some examples. The number of school districts. We have over 800 school districts. Sinclair Shores has 3 school districts. They got to have 3 districts? No. Should be 1 school district and done efficiently instead of all the bureaucratic baloney that's associated with 3 districts just in that one community. You should put down what are the number of kids in the system. That should be on your agenda. What's the dropouts? How many kids dropped out last month? That's the failure of your system. These are indicators that help you to focus on data. I can keep going on this, but there's so much waste and inefficiency in this system that could be taken out of there. On top of that, the government here gave $1 billion to Illich and the Piston guy out of the school aid fund to do that project. So, there's no money? The beer tax has been frozen for 50 years. There's no money. No, there's money out there and it needs to be spent wisely, and you need to focus on the standing. What are you doing to fix it? Detroit, 5 emergency managers. When does the emergency start? Currently, they are short 170 teachers. They can't fill those positions because of the union rules and because these managers were inept. You need to get the superintendent to go and get the 170 teachers they need, period. That's your responsibility in the state. Textbooks, I went and talked to a few systems. This is the world's history, 5 pounds. Read it, it's all wordy gobbledygook. It's a joke, and that's what they're putting out for people to read from and to learn from. It's inefficient. This thing is broken. Not just, we'll move the deck chairs around in the Titanic and watch it go. No, you need to get the data, put it on here. You don't even put on some of this, how much money you're spending on these different projects. Put that as the initial part of your meeting every month. where are we at? And then what are we doing on moving the deck chairs? Now, before it was the Republicans and Democrats, so we could blame them and blame them. Now it's all Democrats that can run this show. You need to step up and do it. And the first thing is fix this Detroit situation with 170 teachers. You can do it. Just say, that's it. Find out what it takes, do it. There's money out there to fix it. That is so critical to the future of Detroit, the future of education. So that's my 5 minutes. Happy New Year, and let's hope we see the deck chairs moved around.
Our next two speakers prefer to come to the table together. They are Ellen Zwarnstein and Michael Obuki, and please feel free to correct the pronunciation of your names.
For years, I was Ms. Z, so that's how it tends to be.
We're ready when you are.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you to the board, superintendent, for the opportunity to address you. My husband serves on our local school board, so I know you don't always know what's coming during the public comment session, so thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ellen Zwarnstein, and I am the newer executive director at the Michigan Center for Civic Education. I also speak as a former teacher, administrator, ISD consultant, adjunct, and as a parent of students in public schools who receive special services. This is Michael Obuchi.
Hello, my name is Michael Obuchi. I just graduated from Berkeley about a month ago, and I'm now an intern at the Michigan Center for Civic Education. Ellen was actually one of my teachers in high school, and we're here to talk to you today about a program that's of really good importance to us, which is the We the People program. We are hosting our state finals this Friday, actually, in the Capitol, and the We the People program is basically a national competition, but it's one that is geared around constitutional research. Students are assigned a constitutional question, and over the course of the year, they are to research and engage with the question in groups and prepare written statements that are then read in front of judges who ask them questions and gauge the students' levels of understanding in terms of knowledge. And I can personally say that as a person who's gone through this kind of program in my high school, I took the AP government course and participated in the program my junior year of high school. This program was very important for my development in terms of learning, because not only did it teach me how to research and how to think critically about law and government, but also how to speak in front of people, and found that to be very influential and impactful in terms of how I understood myself and my role as a student and as a future citizen, which I think was really important for me to get that kind of education early, because it gave me a really good insight as to what I wanted to do with my life, and I'm very grateful for the program for that respect.
So Michael is one of the graduates of one of the programs that we do. We the People is one of the many programs that we do at the Michigan Center for Civic Education, and we just want to let you know that we're here. We are working to help inform civil, civic, and healthy, vibrant communities. We know that civic identity is shaped very early on, and so we have a renewed vision and mission to work with schools and communities side by side to make sure that they have curriculum and programs so that their students are equipped and the teachers are equipped and empowered to really, really see through that there is a healthy civic life and community for all people that are involved. There are a couple other programs that we do as well, just so that you're aware of them. Some of you already know of some of the programs that we do. We also warmly invite you in to participate, to volunteer, to see what students do, and to see what other programs, how else can we extend our reach to other schools that might be there. A lot of the work that we need to do is around awareness and around the research that really demonstrates that participation in these programs really, really results in long-term efficacy, a sense of civic belonging, and a sense of civic identity, and how that is fundamental to shape attitudes not only towards school, but to community. A couple other programs, we also do something called mock trial, which is much like it sounds like, where students mock a trial. Our competition series starts this February 23rd, and we'll the winner of the state competition will then go on to a national competition that is there. A second one, and this is extremely exciting and very anxiety-driving piece too, is that Michigan was just announced the opportunity to host the 2021 National Mock Trial Championship. So over 1,000 people from across the world will come to Kalamazoo in order to participate in that, and that is going to be an all-hands-on-deck endeavor, and we welcome you involvement on steering committees, on committees, any place where you see that there might be an opportunity. We really want to focus on the beautiful state of Michigan and the real emerging legal talent that we can have here and that we do have here, and how we can possibly expand that. Another one is called Project Citizen. This is sort of like what you might envision a science fair to look like, where people have posters and information about science, only around public policy advocacy. So our job is to help students and teachers see themselves as part of the public policy process, identify issues in their communities that they would like to impact and change, and how to do that. We've also piloted, can I have like 1 more minute for the two of us? Is that okay? You can say no, because I will listen. I will.
But they get another 5 minutes, because there's two.
Well,
So
in
keep
that
talking.
case, all right. We were also both debaters too when we were in high school, and I was a debate coach as well, so we can just keep this going all day. Filibuster. Recently, we also piloted something with the Gerald R. Ford Museum and Foundation, and we found this to be very, very helpful, and especially in middle schools, although all ages, lifelong learners as well. And that was called civic listening. And our approach to that is, how do we work together to really focus on dialogue with an emphasis on truly listening to each other? We feel that so much of our society moves so quickly that we forget sometimes to pause, to really understand where someone else is coming from, and to presume the best in one another. So we took it upon ourselves to go into middle schools and work with students on this listening piece, and it has turned out to be very fruitful, and something we hope to pilot down the road as well, to really focus on the civility piece that is there too. This is kind of very exciting for us, and as you'll see our enthusiasm for the law in a moment. Each year, the American Bar Association establishes a law day theme. This year's theme is around free press, free speech, and free society. So we've invited Mary Beth Tinker of the Tinker v. Des Moines court case to Michigan, and she will do a tour of Michigan, a Tinker tour, to kind of highlight students and champions of speech and of press. And so that's just in the works right now, but we hope that the week of April 29th, May 1st, we will bring her to Michigan, and also have our first MCCE fundraiser trivia night, and sponsored by Mary Beth Tinker, which would be super fun, and everyone's invited to have a wonderful time, hopefully here in Lansing. And then another program, as well as what Michael mentioned, is the We the People program. That state competition is this Friday, and we would encourage you to come watch, see what it is these students are grappling with, how it is it informs their civic identity, and how it might create pathways for futures. We just finished the 3-year federal study called the James Madison Legacy Project, in which we know that students and teachers who use this style of curriculum, student-centered, constitutional focus, dialogue-based curriculum, have a much greater sense of political efficacy, of knowledge, and of a sense of belonging and responsibility to community. And that's very, very powerful. This curriculum is offered K through 12. The high school program might only be a high school for right now as well. So there are many opportunities to see how impactful this could really be to our communities as a whole. And the data confirms that, so that's always nice too. I think finally, we'd just like to say congratulations to the newly elected members, and to those of you who continue to choose to serve each and every single day. I can't think of a greater gift that you give to our students and to our teachers, to simultaneously uplift and to challenge the practices that we do every single day. Please don't hesitate. Please come join us along the road of civic education, and hopefully we'll see even healthier, brighter communities as a result. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes public participation. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers today. And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of December 11th, 2018. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Judy, and seconded by Tom. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a report from the interim state superintendent, and I have four items to share with the state boards today. One is to let you know that prior to our holiday break, the department concluded our meetings with the governor's transition team. It was a three-panel team that was assigned to meet with members of the Department of Education. The team met with the deputy superintendents and Marty Ackley and Wendy Larvick and myself multiple times to get an understanding of the work that we do within the department. The team also met with the directors of all of the offices and met then with myself individually. The feedback that we received from the transition team was exceptionally positive. They were greatly appreciative of the time that we spent with them, the answers to their questions, the additional information that we provided, as well as the documents and resources so that they could complete their report to the governor. The other meetings that we've been engaged in, the meetings that we have been having with Ray and Associates, those began yesterday. Representatives of Ray and Associates, the state superintendent search firm, met with the deputy superintendents individually. Met with the three deputy superintendents together, and then met with the leadership team and met with myself individually. They also met with Ed Alliance yesterday, and the purpose was to get an understanding of the qualities that we would like the new superintendent, state superintendent, to possess. In addition, a survey has gone out to all of the MDE staff. That went out last week on Wednesday and is available for the staff to complete, again, looking for the qualities in the new state superintendent, and that survey will close then tomorrow. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to meet with Emily Laidlaw and Josh Rayhart, who were both here earlier today, to begin our conversation on education policy. Emily Laidlaw is the Director of Policy in the Governor's Office, and so we have begun our conversation about educational topics. One of the conversations that we had yesterday was, and I had an opportunity to review the Governor's platform on education policy and to talk about the similarities that are in that policy as they relate to Top 10 and 10 and the priorities that we have in the department. So there was a great deal of alignment between what we're doing in the department and the educational platform of the governor. And finally, some very exciting news that the Michigan Department of Education has been awarded a preschool development grant covering children from birth through age 5, and it is through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of Child Care. The state will receive just over $5 million. These funds will allow Michigan to develop an overarching strategic plan informed by a needs assessment, which will guide systemic efforts to coordinate Michigan's mixed delivery system and improve transitions among home visiting programs, as well as between childcare and preschool. We really look forward to hearing more about the benefits of this grant, the implementation of this grant, and the months to come. And I would like to congratulate the entire Office of Great Start for their collaborative efforts in submitting this grant application. And it was truly a team effort, and the young children in the state of Michigan will benefit from their efforts, not only to apply for the grant, but now to implement the grant. So congratulations to the team. And that concludes my report for this month. Moving on to the Teacher of the Year report. Once again this month, it is a pleasure to have Laura Chang, our 2018-19. Yes, sorry.
I think we still have to approve the minutes.
No, we did.
No, we did. That was the first thing. That, I'll let Judy, we did.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for keeping me honest.
I'm checking them off as we do it. I missed
You know,
one.
because we moved around, we moved things around
Yeah.
on the agenda from
Right.
move things from the afternoon to the
Right.
morning. So Laura Chang is our 2018-19 Teacher of the Year from Michigan. She is a K-5 reading and math interventionist in the Vicksburg Community Schools. And joining Laura is Karen Nickel. Karen is the Region 5 Regional Teacher of the Year. She is joining Laura at the table today. Karen teaches first grade at Marlette Elementary School in Marlette, Michigan. So welcome to Laura and to Karen.
Thank you. All right. So I'm passing out some paperwork right now that should be coming around to highlight a little bit of what I'm sharing today. In the past few months, I've shared programs in Michigan that focus on meeting the needs of struggling learners, increasing literacy in schools with the Hill Project, building student capacity to overcome adverse childhood experiences. But today, I'd like to share how a unique public school in Kalamazoo is preparing students to be college and career ready. So, nestled here on the 4th floor of the historic Chenery Auditorium building in Kalamazoo, you'll find the Kalamazoo Area Math and Science Center, better known as Gamzee to the students and families in Kalamazoo County. Gamzee provides an accelerated academic program designed for students with a passion to excel in the fields of mathematics, science, and technology. Gamzee's high school program serves approximately 300 talented students selected from the 9 area school districts in Kalamazoo County. I had the pleasure of joining former student Mackenzie Irvin. She's now a pre-med student at Kalamazoo College, and Gamzee director, Dr. Michael TANF, on a visit to the school in December. Dr. TANF joined the Gamzee team in 2011. He has a bachelor's degree from Rutgers and a PhD from Yale University. So Gamzee was founded in 1986 with the idea that a program like this would entice scientists to Parkwood Upjohn, that they would then settle in the Kalamazoo area, which I found very interesting that was the initial purpose of the school, to entice those science families. KPS, Kalamazoo Public Schools, serves as Gamzee's administrative and fiscal agent. Gamzee is a highly selective program which admits students based on a number of factors, including admission test scores, teacher recommendations, writing samples, and grades. Each year, over 250 students complete the application process, and they compete for about 85 seats in the 9th grade class there. Students attend Gamzee for half of their school day, and then they're parochial or public or private or homeschool for the other half of their day. The challenging coursework there gives students a chance to work on problem solving and research skills during that 4-year program. So the first classroom that I visited was Mrs. Kalnich's AP Statistics class. Mrs. Kalnich, and no, it doesn't look like Kalnich, but that's how we say her name. She's a national board certified teacher, and she's been teaching at Gamzee since 1993. When asked about what makes the mathematics program at Gamzee different from other high school programs, she pointed out that Gamzee works on horizontal enrichment, project-based learning, discovery-oriented learning, and investigative instruction, rather than just providing an accelerated curriculum. The content is integrated in all of the students' coursework at Gamzee. Mrs. Kalnich pointed out that students are not only using statistics in her AP Statistics class, but they're using it in context in science, in the research programs, and more. The staff at Gamzee work closely to develop that integrated cross-curricular programming. Next, I visited Mrs. Hatch's AP Environmental Science class. This is Mrs. Hatch's 29th year of teaching, and she's also a national board certified teacher. Her goal is to create better scientific citizens with a broad understanding about how the world operates, who care about math, who care about science. She points out that the students at Gamzee want to be there, and they want their learning to be relevant. And that's one of the reasons she uses a flipped classroom model in her classroom. Generally, students read and study the content at home. Then they apply their new learning in a project-based environment in the classroom. On the day that I visited, Mrs. Hatch told me that the students were practicing street fighting math. That's based on her idea that nobody wants the actual number in a real life situation, but a ballpark figure when it comes to complex calculations in those real life situations. Students were solving problems surrounding the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, the environmental and financial costs of real versus artificial Christmas trees, the amount of napkins used annually, and more. Mrs. Hatch said, "I give students a lot of yarn, but they have to knit the sweater." Dr. TANF, during this visit, the director, pointed out that science is conveying information. It's not just learning the information, but it's discourse, going public, being able to present to colleagues, receive criticism. That's what the students do daily in these courses. This is Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair, he's known for his engaging discussions, his excitement for teaching, and he's known for donning a full-length lab coat daily. He's been with Gamzee since 1988 and is also a national board certified teacher. Students were learning about the physics of the movie Interstellar that day that I visited. The physics student of the week, you'll see seated there in the recliner, had been recognized in class for going above and beyond, for showing extra effort, for seeking out additional learning opportunities. The passion for physics just flows out of Mr. Sinclair. Students were completely engaged in his interactive discussion, taking notes while Mr. Sinclair provided relevant explanations. He seamlessly moved between the movie Interstellar and the physics content, always making that very high-level content accessible to the students. He incorporated movie scenes to reinforce concepts. He shared research. He asked probing questions. And the students' questions to Mr. Sinclair really showed their deep level of content understanding as well. I saw many kinds of instruction at Gamzee that day, engaging lectures with students taking notes, students solving problems in small groups to apply content previously learned, collaborative learning with students solving problems and then presenting information to their class colleagues. One thing was consistent in each classroom, though. Students were engaged in the learning. Students were asking deep questions about the content presented. Students were making connections from one class to another. Students were working cooperatively with their classmates to solve problems, to deepen understanding. They were sharing their findings with their colleagues, seeking feedback from their peers to guide their learning. So I was fortunate to talk with many students during my visit to Gamzee. A theme quickly emerged during those discussions with students. Those students all mentioned that the people and the atmosphere were what kept them at Gamzee. They pointed out that everyone is invested in their learning there, and there's an atmosphere of collaboration. They commented on the family feel at Gamzee and that they're all learning together. They noted that teachers are invested in their learning, especially passionate about what they teach, enthusiastic to make the subjects come alive. They appreciated that the teachers treat students like adults and believe in each student. One student mentioned that the teachers put a lot of faith in us here at Gamzee, and that they have higher expectations than any other teachers in their school career. She pointed out that the teachers offer individual attention, that students are closely monitored, they're sought after by the teachers after school for extra work if needed. There's an expectation there that students will work hard and will try their best and will succeed. Another student told me that she came to Gamzee in pursuit of a career in STEM, but she stayed because of the relationships and the collaboration. In the top right corner there, that's the student commons area at Gamzee, and it showcases pennants from the hundreds of universities in which these students have continued their education. On the back of one of those handouts that I gave you, you'll see all of the universities listed there. While a significant number of students have chosen the University of Michigan, also represented are Ivy League schools, military academies, other top-ranked universities. There used to be 7 programs like this around the state. But the funding that supported those programs was cut in the early 2000s. Previously, they were funded at nearly $300,000 a year from the state. That was cut completely, and then very quickly, about a year later, brought back at about 25%. So just 4 of those programs survived these major cuts. Kalamazoo Area Math and Science Center, the Battle Creek Math and Science Center, Berrien County, and the Macomb County Math and Science Center. The participating districts in Kalamazoo County, those 9 districts that I mentioned, they provide funding above and beyond what the state provides from the foundation allowance, which Gamzee is always very grateful for. So I've been thinking a lot about this program and how this type of learning just must be offered to more students in our state. And these are some ideas that I'd like to share. First, I'd like to invite the state board members to reach out to Dr. TANF. His contact information is on the bottom of that first page. Just maybe for a visit to Gamzee to see firsthand the really important work happening there. Second, I think it would be valuable to extend an invitation to the director, Dr. TANF, and his team to visit a state board meeting in the future to share firsthand how they're preparing high school students for careers in STEM and to begin a discussion about how to replicate Gamzee's great work around the state with the limited funds that they have there. And finally, I'd like to appeal to the board to consider petitioning to the legislature to reinstate funding for mathematics and science centers like this and training for teachers that these math and science centers provide so that more students in our great state can have access to programs like Gamzee's. So I'd like to introduce Karen Nickel again, our Regional Teacher of the Year from Region 5. She's going to share a few points specific to her region.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for having me today. It's truly been a great experience as a Regional Teacher of the Year. I've been in education a long time, 29 years to be exact. It doesn't seem like that at all, but I've had a lot of different experiences. I've worn a lot of hats over the years. This year I took on a new role after being in the classroom for these 29 years. I am now the K-6 literacy coach. So that has really put me in line with working on literacy, not just in my district, but in our county as well. So my goal has been to increase reading partnerships to promote literacy within Region 5 and across Michigan. The top 10 and 10, again, focusing on ensuring literacy for all students by 3rd grade and beyond. And I really stress this with everyone is team approach. Together, everyone achieves more. And that is something that we have really worked hard in St. Louis County at achieving. Some of my connections so far as Region 5 teacher has been ongoing with the St. Louis County Early Literacy Team. We meet monthly. We do a lot of things within our county. Prior to this, our districts worked independently, and through this coalition, we've been able to do things countywide, which has been really helpful. I've also had the opportunity of visiting Saginaw Valley State University and look at the pre-teachers and promoting the importance of reading and also the importance of building relationships. I've also been able to attend the SEAC Advisory Council and will be attending that again. I've also been able to work in Huron County and do some literacy professional development. And then I'm also going to be visiting another school, Brown City, in February. Our big highlight, as I've said, has been the St. Louis County Early Literacy Team. We've been working collaboratively, countywide, to improve student literacy for all students. We've been working on those essentials in the 3rd grade reading law, and we've been able to offer teachers support and also professional development so these essentials can be sustained over time. And most importantly, we've been developing partnerships with families to promote student success. We feel like our families have sometimes been on the outside looking in, and we want to include them in everything we do. We are about action. Beginning last summer, we started a 4-day Literacy Institute training. We had a very good response with that. We've then gone with 3 countywide literacy essentials where teachers come after school. And if you could visit one of those essential training, you would see a lot of excitement from beginning teachers to teachers that have been in the school setting for a long time. We then go into linking walks where we go into schools. There have been many teachers that haven't had the opportunity to go and observe other classrooms. That's been very successful. And then we've also gone with in-district planning and follow-up. Again, to keep things sustained, we need to do those follow-up communications and learning opportunities. And with everything, every child, every classroom, every day is what we're working on. And this is just a little snapshot of one of our linking walks at Sandusky Elementary. And as you can see, we had staff members that were excited about learning as they were collaborating. And this will equal reading success for Michigan children. And together, everyone will achieve more as we work together with both students, families, and other districts. And again, I would like to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Karen, for your very informative presentations this afternoon. And now we'll go to the next item on today's agenda, which is the first item of the discussion action agenda, which is a discussion on the state superintendent search. And at this time, I will turn to our board president, Cassandra, to lead this discussion.
Can I have a minute to connect Mike Collins on
You
the phone?
absolutely can.
Thank you. Oh, that was for the timer. Thanks for watching me. Back in play.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code. To join the conference, there are 1 participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as the host. For a menu of available commands, press *#.
So Mike's ready to call in?
Yes.
Okay.
Is anybody else on? I
Just
thought
him.
it said, okay,
Well, I'm the one.
go ahead. Okay. So good afternoon, folks. I'm waiting for my colleague Mike to call in. He's got the contact information, so he should be calling in shortly. I'm beginning to see familiar faces around the table. Wait for him to connect. I believe everybody has a set of handouts, and we're going to be following those in order. Calling for Mike to get online. So if you don't mind, while we're waiting for Mike to come online, if you look at the last handout, which is the list of stakeholders, I would like to just give you a brief update on where we are with that process. I met yesterday with the Education Alliance. And that was a very, very nice meeting with those folks. I was there present, and then Mike Collins was available by phone online. So we met with them. I've also met with your interim superintendent, Sheila Alice, one-on-one. I met with your 3 deputy superintendents, and then I met with the directors, probably a group of 25 to 30 people that were in the audience at that point in time. And if you look at the Michigan Tribal Education Directors, I am scheduled to meet with them on the 16th, in the afternoon of the 16th in Mount Pleasant. The rest of these, we're in the process of scheduling these meetings for Monday and Tuesday, January 14th and 15th. We have reached out to the governor and the chairs of the Senate and House Education Committees. I believe the Democrats are still in the process of appointing people to those roles. But we have reached out to them and waiting to schedule them.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon. Hi, Mike.
So that is the update on that. If you have any questions, Mike, we're just going through the list of stakeholders. I'm giving them an update on who we've already met with.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay? Madam President, or who's chairing this? Okay?
Please.
The flyer, so we have gone back and forth with your staff, and we have, I believe, the final touches on the flyer itself. That includes the updated superintendent, board-approved state superintendent job description. So that's embedded in this flyer. Unless you have any questions on that, that will, yes,
Leave it to an elementary teacher.
okay?
Under the Michigan Education's vision statement, it says every learner.
That of learner.
Yep.
Oh. We
that
caught
again?
that down on our end as well.
Okay, okay.
Under
Every,
the vision statement, lower right-hand corner.
right here.
Right?
I think we want that to say learner.
Got it. Those are the kind of things spell check doesn't catch, and the human eyes don't always catch, because we're trained to
Yeah, see?
look for other stuff. Okay? All right, duly noted. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments on the flyer itself?
Bless you.
I believe we've updated all the, numbers, and we've updated the roles and responsibilities based on your state-approved job description. If you look at the deadline for applications, it's listed on there March 11th as tentative. If this is approved, then the tentative will go off, and that'll be the flyer that we use for recruitment purposes and hand out at conferences, organizations, like all the organizations that are listed with the Educational Alliance will share this flyer with them as well. Okay?
Do we have questions from board members?
Yep.
Tom?
So I guess, looking at the flyer, I mean, do you, in your expert judgment, feel that this is something that will garner a lot of interest?
I believe the position itself will garner a lot of interest. This flyer is just additional information for them to peruse and to review as they're considering, applying for the job.
Pretty standard, I guess.
It's pretty standard.
Yeah, so just the
But
position
it's
yourself.
helpful.
Yeah.
When they look at desirable characteristics and skills, that part is valuable for them as they look to see whether or not they consider themselves to be a good fit and a good match based on the desired characteristics.
Yeah, and if I may add, it's also what'll be the link from all those different organizations that are going to announce this opening on a national scale. It'll be what sits on the Ray and Associates website. It will be what could be sent out. But what it's really designed to do is to show the opening of the position, give a sense of what the state of Michigan, and in particular the State Board of Education, is looking for, and then to actually drive people in terms of a call to action to the Ray and Associates site to find the application. That's its primary purpose, as you well know. In the whatever it's worth category, though the content is different, the design looks, in my beginning of my second term and towards the end of my second term, we did 2 searches in departments for state superintendent in Ohio, and they looked very similar, and so did the ones we looked at from other states. So I think you've hit the nail on the head when you said it's pretty standard. Yes, but I think this position is so attractive, and particularly with kind of, there's a real chance for somebody to do some real shaping. You have new members on the board. You're going to have a new superintendent. You got a new governor. You have new committee chairs, possibly, et cetera. So I think this will be very helpful, but the real interest will be in the position itself.
I guess my only thought, and it's probably too edgy to put on here, but I mean, I would have liked, I think a characteristic would be somebody who's willing to push back on education fads or the latest popular opinion, but I don't think we can add it, but I just hope that I think that is a unique characteristic, and that we're, as a board, have shown that we're a little bit more open to just kind of, fads might be a little bit pejorative, but just just the latest thing that's out there that they're.
Yeah, and I certainly hear where you're coming from. I believe that it'll be important as you get into the interview process that you configure some of the questions to get at that issue for you and the rest of the board members. Yes.
Under deadline and selection, it says all applications were reviewed by the search firm and the State Board of Education in closed session. We can only do that if they request confidentiality. So I don't know if I would make that guarantee in here.
They will all request confidentiality.
Last year, we had one that didn't. So I'd be
Last
very
time.
hesitant about making that assumption.
Just so you know, the application itself has that statement on there, and they have to physically check it and I believe sign it
Right.
in order for them to be exempted, from that.
But if you just simply said all applications will, upon request, be reviewed. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that would-
something that gives us a little bit
So
of
we
leeway.
can certainly add that,
Yeah, it sounds like that's,
so upon request,
Yep.
I think that would be a good add.
okay?
Yes, Michelle?
I'm just wondering if in the desirable characteristics, we should say something specifically about knowledge in special education, given our ratings by the feds, that should be a priority, a stated priority on the calling. So I'm wondering if like in the second session thing, it has vision and strategy for education improvement that can effectively improve education, learning, and outcomes for all children, and maybe particularly or including students,
Yeah,
special education, or working, somewhere where there's, where they have a depth of knowledge around special education and vision around special education.
so again, I hear where you're coming from, but based on my experience, we don't list as like in the skill set. Have you been a principal? Do you have experience as a curriculum instruction, specialist, knowing curriculum instruction, knowing teaching and learning? Do you have knowledge about career technical education? So I think special education, I understand the critical relevance and importance of that topic. Again, when you get into the interview questions, I believe that is the time that you'll be able to flush out what their skill set and knowledge and depth of knowledge is with respect to career technical education, P20, partnerships, special education, dealing with special populations, early childhood education, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of those kinds of things.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm pulling out the special ed is because we really have a critical need right now on that, where we don't for like CTE we always can make improvements, but right now there's a real,
Maybe one suggestion. I think there's definitely a way in our communication with candidates and so forth, but if you really want to see it written, and I don't mean to get into the wordsmithing business, that can effectively improve learning and outcomes for all children, including
those with
Special needs.
inclusive of all children with or children of special populations. Something that just if you want it strengthened.
Yeah,
But the breakout special ed is, I think the breakout special ed will be limiting to the pool.
Okay, all right, I'm fine with that. Is that, okay, yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Including those
No,
with
we'll try to accommodate all your wishes. We're just trying to be as helpful as possible.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, it's
At the
close
rate.
enough.
Yeah, because then you get EL, Hispanic, you're not just singling out one subgroup of students. African, because we
Yeah, I
know
don't want to do
African
that. It's
American
outcomes for all children,
struggle
including
with their proficiency.
all children in special population or something like that.
Okay.
In the last bullet on the first column, I think there's something that's missing where it says a vision for addressing Michigan hyphenated specific problems or Michigan specific problems. First column, last bullet.
Second page.
I'm on the back side, second page, sorry. second page. First
Oh,
column.
The last bullet?
Yeah, Michigan
Dash
hyphenated specific problems, or Michigan's specific problems.
Michigan specific would be hyphenated.
Yeah, it could be Michigan specific problems.
Can I ask another question? I thought we had determined at the last meeting what the salary was gonna be, but this indicates that the final salary will be negotiated and determined, which kind of gives it the impression that 216 is a floor and not a ceiling.
It says in the range of 216.
Right.
I don't know what, it's not much of a range, it's one number.
Okay, so you wanted to read the salary is $216,000 plus a state's benefits package, final pack. Do you don't want it? Does it have to be?
We really don't
Does the
have room to
benef-
negotiate.
Well, maybe they mean up to.
All right.
Okay,
So you wanna, so we can rephrase that
Okay.
to say that the salary will be capped at
Right.
216, okay.
Okay.
It's either B
Okay.
or up to.
And then
not
it's,
on the other
but
side.
negotiated based on, in other words, it could be 210, 212, 214, based on,
Okay.
previous experience.
Yeah.
And also, you normally always look at what their current salary is, so make sure that they're gonna get a raise when they go from this level to another level of
But
responsibility.
again, I mean, we had this conversation last time. We really don't have the ability to negotiate that. The budget is what the budget is. So I don't want to give anyone this false impression that,
No, so I mean, I hear you in terms of the limit is 216.
right,
But are you also willing to consider that it could be 210 is kind of my question? Or you're saying regardless of who the candidate is, the salary is going to be 216,000?
I would have a hard time negotiating. I mean, if we say the salary
you're
is
not-
216, then that's what someone's going to expect. So why not
yeah,
just say
they're
it's
not.
216?
They're not going to negotiate it down.
Right.
Unless you force them. So if this is what it is, it's also set by the state. My only question, so I would just say the salary is $216,000 per annum. And then do you want to say just to be attractive plus a robust or a complete state benefit? Maybe the word complete, because
Yeah.
robust can mean God knows what to whom, but a complete state benefits package. Just for a sense of
Yeah,
attractiveness.
sure.
That would be,
Mhm.
okay.
Also, it sounds like Governor Whitmer just left here, and so we don't know if that question will be allowed on applications anymore.
What question?
The state agencies from inquiring about a job applicant's current or previous salary.
Oh.
Well, maybe until an offer, but
Okay,
maybe it should.
so it would read, the salary will be
Right.
216,000 plus a complete state, benefits package.
Yep.
It'll go up every year,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
so
duly
maybe
noted, we'll make
with
those
COLA
changes.
Or whatever.
And that would be in your contract.
Yeah, good catch. I mean, we're
Benefits
normally,
package.
most school districts negotiate that
Right.
salary, so that's what we're accustomed to doing, but we understand what your constraints are.
Thank you.
In interim superintendent, Alice,
Yes.
that Michigan-specific problem, so what were you recommending there?
That it be
Hyphen.
hyphenated, Michigan hyphen specific problem.
All right. Got it.
Looking like a teacher.
And a period.
An
at the
educator.
end.
Former middle school ELA teacher.
Period, yeah.
And a
And a
period,
period at the
But
end.
it's kind
Well-
of bullet pointed.
The other ones,
but you can have a period after bullets, the last
All
one.
right. Go for it.
Mess with Sheila.
yeah, all the other bullets have periods, okay, so the last one,
Technical writing over here.
okay,
Good.
all right? Yes,
I was one of the ones, I don't know who else, felt this way, but that wanted somebody that's a hybrid. So is there a way that we can put maybe like a out-of-the-box thinker or something on there? I don't want us to continue to do the same thing. and get the same results. I want somebody that can bring something, a fresh perspective.
If I may, whether you put it on there or not, those that are interested, when we see, they will either call us or call the office and we'll talk to them, or they will literally on their application, as they fill out their application, we're going to get the question, I have these many years in actual public school experience, but I also have these many years in a private educational, corporation or environment. We answer that question all the time. So I don't know if it's not there, if that is a handicap whatsoever. That's all I can tell you. And I don't know why you give that a call out over anything you put on here that's somewhat unique. Means there's a call out to, that would sound like the real preference of this board is to have a hybrid candidate. If you understand the thought process.
Yeah, we don't want to limit the number of people that apply.
That's my concern.
So
I
not
don't
saying the
disagree
word
with you.
hybrid, but maybe saying out of the box thinker or something like that. I don't know if we could do something like that.
Right. In previous conversations we had with the state board, I believe the majority consensus was that you would be amenable or open to interviewing a hybrid candidate. So that had been discussed, but it wasn't limited to, hybrid candidates. So that becomes all inclusive in terms of a traditional quote unquote superintendent and or a hybrid candidate. So it's open-ended. And Mike is absolutely right. When we talk to these candidates and they will ask us questions, we will let them know. If, for example, if a person who is like Los Angeles Unified hired a Navy admiral a few years back. If a Navy admiral wants to apply and he or she calls us, and they would ask, is this board open to a person like myself who has years of experience in leadership, but leading systems, but not necessarily an educator? And so we would answer the question.
If I may add, and maybe this will be helpful, we actually have candidates. We have a set of candidates that we know are hybrid.
Yes.
Okay. It's that either are in our database and or we have placed them. So if you want us to make a commitment to reach out to those that seem appropriate here that have a hybrid background, I think it's much easier for us to do that. Remember, as we take down names of anybody you want to recommend that we should contact, we can make a special effort to make those contacts, in your behalf, because we know who the vast majority of them are.
And so when we talk to them and they ask us, will the state board consider me as a hybrid candidate? The answer would be absolutely yes. Okay.
Tiffany, I hear you and I appreciate it because I was somebody talking about out of the box, but I think that could be many things to many people, what out of the box. And so somebody who's a superintendent could be an out of the box thinker, but they're not necessarily an out of the box candidate. So, they may say that now I shouldn't. I don't know, but I hear you. But I think that they can either handle it when they get that call and say, I'm kind of out of the box. Is that okay? And you'd say yes. As opposed to some boards, I would imagine you'd say, well, that's not really what they're looking for. So I think them knowing that you and others are interested in that, I think it'll be fulfilled without limiting anything or being a little confusing.
And again, when we bring a slate of candidates to you, you'll be able to screen based on your particular, desire to have a out-of-the-box thinker and a hybrid candidate. So from the 12 or 15 that we bring to you, you'll be looking for that kind of a skill set. And that'll be the filter that you use to determine the ranking of the people that you want to interview. Okay?
Okay. Any other changes?
Okay. So we're done with the flyer. And the rest is the timeline. This has been updated based on the latest dates and times. We ended up moving the stakeholder meetings to January 14th and 15th. Originally, we were talking about January 7th and 8th, but it became too tight of a time frame. But that still gives us a good almost 60 days for the recruitment aspect. Normally, we have it 45 to 60 is the normal for us. So that's still within the norm, and it gets us within the timeline that you would be interviewing, candidates in early April. Okay. Any questions on that? Grammatical changes, errors, and punctuation. And we appreciate that, by the way. It takes a lot of eyes looking at these documents, to make sure it's done right. But most of this has been shared with you, except for that change in those dates and a couple of other, minor wording changes. And also in terms of who had the responsibility to have, that particular, for example, the stakeholders, Ray and Associates is reaching out to the stakeholders and doing the calling and the scheduling of those. Any questions on that? Yes.
As it relates to the stakeholder groups, how are we making sure that partnership districts are represented, or the voice of a strong voice in showing of partnership districts are represented here?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, other than this is the list of stakeholders that you collectively as a state board decided upon.
Okay.
And gave to us.
And I probably didn't
So
give
we
it that
probably-
second call out. Okay.
We probably, if the board agrees, should add that stakeholder group.
Yeah, I think we put it down one time, but then
Mike, were you going to say
Quick question, what is a partnership?
I was afraid you were gonna ask that. I'm sorry, I was just assuming that you might know that, but
I
I
do.
should not do that.
I do.
Okay, you're local, so yes.
Yes, I do.
So you're familiar, so.
Yes.
There's, how many districts are there now?
There are 34.
There are 34 districts, and you wanna
There are 34 there are 34 districts that have been identified through various methodologies, but in the end, they are all what we kind of call our tier 3 most needy districts.
They're all your what? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
Kind of our the bottom low performing, highest needs.
Okay, all right.
And I was trying not to use the word low performing, but there are there are districts that that we've provided wrapped around with partnership services, and have probably have some very unique circumstances.
Okay, so if you look down at all the associations that we spoke with yesterday, not to mention the special education group, you feel that those interests would not have been represented? I'm just curious.
MASB, AFT.
MEA includes a lot of them.
Yeah.
So your Michigan Association of School Administrators MASA is the organization that represents basically all school administrators in the state. And again, this list was like agencies and organizations. I don't know that the partnership schools have a specific organization that has a chairperson. Most of these have chairpersons that we're.
And that's yeah, I don't know that they don't, so.
If you want to look down as we schedule the other groups, because there's some other educational groups that are there on that list beyond the Alliance, which we did yesterday, that we'll be doing next week. And if somebody wants to give us a couple of contacts from, a couple of these partnership districts, and you want us to make sure that they get a seat at a table with a couple of other groups, I mean, I don't have any problem inviting them, if that helps. But I'm just trying to see if they weren't represented in some form or fashion. But if you want a real shout out, somebody's got to give us who you want us to contact, and we're going to put them in with another group.
Also, I would add the Middle Cities Education Association also represents a lot of those, type of school districts.
So I'll work on that, and I apologize if I didn't get that to you, and I'll
Right.
work with Sheila and Luana to do that.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if there's something we can do to be, to help that, we're happy to.
Yep.
If, so we just need some guidance, I guess is the way I would put it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll support you with that.
Thank you.
Anything else on? We were still on the timeline. Did we finish the timeline? Any additional questions on the timeline? We're done with that?
Yep.
And then the next item, this is the purpose of the constituent meetings. We put together a statement that we used as we went out to call the various stakeholder constituent groups to let them know when they ask the question, what is this about? So that's what this paragraph was drafted, to be able to give them some idea of why we're calling them and why we're requesting a meeting with them, so that they can provide input into this whole superintendent search process. So that's what the purpose of that paragraph is about. And we worked with staff, to tweak it and get the wording right. Any questions on that part? And then the final.
I'm not an English teacher, but I don't know about the purpose of this segment is to, and then for each of the parentheticals supposed to be able to follow that is to the qualities, characteristics exemplified, or is to, or give suggestions to the qualities and characteristics that are desired in a candidate, a successful candidate, or I don't know. It's probably good enough. I'm not a wordsmith.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so if you think of it, we're asking them to provide input on, let me get back to the critical issues, the strengths of the educational environment, and then qualities and characteristics.
All right.
And those are all the specific questions that you have in the next handout there in your packet. So when we meet with each one of these groups, these are the questions that we're asking, and this is how we're generating the feedback.
That's good.
When we met with the state board members, we asked a series of other questions, as you recall. So those are all the items that we were bringing forward today. Are there any questions? I believe at some point in time, we want somebody to give us the thumbs up on all of these documents based on the changes that we made today here at the table.
So based on the conversation we had last month, I would ask that the board make a motion that the president, once this is finalized, can have final approval before our next state board meeting so that we can get this advertised and put out there.
Board?
Okay, so we have a motion by Michelle, supported by Tom.
Does that include, I thought from our last meeting that it would include like something about advertising, like avenues of advertising or budget of advertising? I can't remember what it was, but does that need to be included too? Because that's
the advertising part, we decided that at the last time that I came forward.
Okay.
We had a list and I gave you a budget on how much that was gonna cost.
Okay.
So that was approved at the last meeting.
Okay, okay.
So this motion is only to approve documents related to the state superintendent search after the draft documents have been reviewed and edits have been agreed upon by the state board. Okay. So we have a motion by Michelle, a second by Tom to recommend that Cassandra take on those responsibilities. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much.
So any other questions?
Thank you very much.
That we can answer? If not, I greatly appreciate your time again and look forward to moving forward to the next stage of the process, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mike.
Pleasure to be with you again.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the next item on today's agenda, which is the one that we had the sneak preview for in the morning, which is a discussion of state and federal legislative updates. And that is from Marty Ackley, the Director of Public and Governmental Affairs.
Come on in.
So Marty,
I warmed the chair up for you.
It is the hot seat.
it is now your opportunity to engage in conversation with the State Board.
Cool. Well, the legislature comes back tomorrow, actually. The Senate has, and this was all in the board briefs, the Senate has named committee chairs. Senator Lana Tice is the chair of the Senate Education Committee, and but the other members have not been named. I am, Mirth, I think, was going to hand out a packet of information summarizing the education-related bills that passed in lame duck for discussion. Also is the letter that interim Superintendent Alice sent to the legislature at the end of that session regarding the A through F bill. And then also attached behind that is an analysis of what is now Public Act 601 of 2018, which is that same bill. So we can weigh in. How would you like to proceed, I guess, is my question. Go right into A through F, go into your questions.
Why don't we start with A through F? Because I think that's where people have the most questions.
Okay.
And the related, not just A to F, but
Right.
yeah, the whole bill.
Yeah.
Or the whole
Okay.
bill package.
Okay.
The one bill.
Right.
So that, as was discussed this morning, and as Tom just said, it wasn't just A through F, there were many things that were included into it, and some changes that were made on the floor of the House late at night that did not include guidance from the department that we have found since violate state law, or I'm sorry, federal law, and would run amok with our ESSA plan, our USED-approved ESSA plan, which would be problematic if we tried to implement the law as written. And we are reaching out to the State Attorney General and the U.S. Department of Education for some guidance as to how to proceed. What do we do? Do we go forward with the law and be in violation of federal law? If we try to implement this as written, we would have to amend our ESSA plan, which would require more time than is allowed for in the law. The law requires us to develop an A through F plan in the law by August 1st, and then send it to a peer review committee that has yet to be named by August 1st, and then we have to implement it by September 1. If we go through the process of amending our ESSA plan, it would take at least 6 months to go through the public comment, stakeholder comment. And so there are some timing issues, as well as the fact that there are sections of the law that just violate federal law. And so we are reaching out to the Attorney General and the USED as to what the impact would be, not only to our schools, but also to the department, as to what happens if we would do that.
And is it true possible sanctions could be loss of, say, Title I funding or special education funding? What's the...
That's the ultimate risk.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate risk, is that if you violate federal law, that is in danger. I'm not sure if that's ever been done across the country. I think maybe once. I think there was a state that, I want to say Idaho or Wyoming or somebody, they did not implement No Child Left Behind or something, and that they were withheld federal funds for a while. But this was a number of years back. But there is that risk, always.
Are we open to questions?
Tom.
Okay, so explain to me this repeal of 1280C, which I'm glad.
Yep.
But now, does that mean there's no more threat of closure? Was that what threatened closure, was 1280C? Or just explain to me how we now have a bottom five without 1280C, or we have how we delineate which And maybe that was already given to us. Did you already tell us that?
Yep.
Well, can you refresh my mind?
Great.
Refresh me on this, and then also, okay, if we're looking at, now we're just governed by the feds, how often are we, do the feds say we have to identify CSI, the comprehensive school, what is it? CSI school?
CSI Schools Comprehensive.
Yeah, how often? Is it every 3 years? Is
Every
it
3 years.
year?
Every 3 years is in our plan.
Then we're doing every year right now, aren't we?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay.
No, not CSI schools.
Well, but I mean, setting up partnership agreements. So does that mean we'll be setting up agreements every 3 years now?
Yes.
And not interim, not in between like we have.
Vanessa's
done.
going to join me down
I've
here.
asked Vanessa to come to
Okay.
join us at the table.
Right.
But we're going to be talking as things exist now, before, say, just take PA 61 out of the question right now so that we can explain the field as it is now.
So right now, and this was what I was saying before about the transition into the partnership model, which really bridged two epics of federal legislation at ESEA, Flex, and ESSA.
Right.
Under Flex, we were identifying priority schools every year. That was a big thing we took into ESSA, saying we don't want to do that. We were identifying more frequently than we probably had to, except our state law said annually.
Right.
So we, in ESSA, said we will identify CSI once every 3.
Right.
So when, like for instance, this cycle, when the index comes out, no one would be named a CSI and we would form no new partnership agreements. You haven't seen this yet because we onboarded the partnership in 3 kind of cycles, but that was more about transitioning between systems and onboarding the model, not the plan going forward. So the plan going forward was once every 3, we would run a new CSI list and either, and that would correspond with district partnership agreements.
Oh, okay, so 1280C didn't have any, that wasn't why we were doing it annually with new partnership agreements?
So 1280C, we hadn't really tested this out just yet, but 1280C required us to annually identify bottom 5, but didn't say, and then form partnership agreements.
Didn't it say, and then potentially close them or something?
It did put, so we were going to, that was one of our things that we wanted to do, was work with the legislature to change the annual identification requirement in 1280C. So again, we would have, well, what we would or would not have done is maybe irrelevant, but we knew that that was a disconnect between the best practice, which is get a set of districts, program with them for 3 years, exit some, and then start with new, as opposed to this kind of constantly identification cycle at the school level. So if 1280C had not been rescinded, we would be working with the legislature now to say, here's some ways we want to try to tweak it to get it in alignment with the federal plan, but now it's gone. So,
Okay.
and do you want me to walk through the authority piece one more time, or
No,
okay.
I got it.
I mean, I know it's complicated, so
Right.
I'm happy to.
And in the end, we still are identifying schools and districts that need help and we're not being punitive. Well, I mean, has the threat of closure, did I get this answered? Is the threat of closure gone now that 1280C is gone?
The 1280C closure piece is gone. What is not gone is through 22P, which is in the State School Aid Act. It says you have to have goals and you have to have next levels of accountability, and those next levels of accountability can either be closure or reconstitution. So for all of our current partnership districts who put closure as their next level of accountability, under 22P, that is their option. What is gone is the 1280C road of you're on for 3 years and you don't exit, and by the determination of the SRO you can be closed, although nobody ever used that exact authority that way either.
I do.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, right, that's right, too.
Tom,
No,
you have
I'm
more
good
questions?
for
Okay.
now.
Pam?
And this, I guess I'm just asking somewhat the same question that Tom just asked in a different way. So if a school receives an F letter grade, but maybe there's 3 different markers once you go in and you do the 18-month review, and then you're going to do the 36-month review. What are those 3 different markers?
I'm drawing a total blank. Substantially, Luana, what are the the performance levels for the 18-month review? Met, thank you, or Bill, sorry.
So we have met, not met with progress, trending upward, and then not met, limited progress, which could be flatline or trending down.
So if a school receives an F letter grade, if this were to go through, And then if we found out from the Attorney General that we had to move this forward, but then they met that third level, or that second level, met with some progress. What do you foresee would happen?
Those are the things that we're having to get some information and sort through. Our big goal, our overriding goal is to have an accountability system that makes sense and is coherent, not conflicting messages, not pushing our schools in different direction, and one that supports districts and schools toward continuous improvement. So we don't have all the answers on how this all works together yet.
So obviously, and we've said this before, is this is taking us back to where we were before, where we weren't able to give the schools the necessary supports. Sheila, you coined a phrase very well, but where the department is able to be a support versus just that hammer that comes down on schools. You said it far more eloquently than I just said it. And so, that is unfortunate. I guess the other question around the 22P, and I think, Tom, you raised this once before, is that was a part of appropriations, so that could change.
The State School Aid Act is opened every year as part of the budget process. So yes, it didn't this last time, but yes, it is not, that's where it is in law. So it's.
Okay, and you don't foresee that?
Who knows with the new legislature? I mean, there's a new legislature. It's still, controlled by Republicans, but there are new members. There'll be new members on the appropriations committees. They may have, new ideas, different ideas, and they can always amend. It's far easier to amend the School Aid Act because it comes up every year than it is to amend the school code. So, I mean, it is a possibility.
And it's also possible we could request the governor, when she puts out her budget recommendation, to do that as well.
Correct that section, sure.
So I guess the salient point that we're all getting at here, going back to this F letter grade, and the fact that we have school districts that are finally able to get some supports that they need, what they're doing be need-based, and then the department be able to provide that wraparound support along with other community organizations and some of the other alphabet soup agencies and organizations. So at this time, they could be getting the rug pulled from up under them as they're just getting going and moving forward. And so this back and forth, once again, for these school districts, and even worse for these children, that's again a disservice, to say the least. Not that and thank you to the department and Sheila for everything that you all are doing to research and to assess this and to take it to the necessary process to see what other recourse we have here. So we do appreciate that.
Thank you. And Michelle?
So I'm wondering around the impact of Detroit, which had its own special agreement under the DPSCD package, and how this will affect them. I've heard some remarks from the superintendent in Detroit about frustrating he found it to be, since they had worked out something. So could you kind of walk me through how it's going to affect or may affect Detroit in particular, and what it does to that previous legislation?
The Detroit legislation that passed a couple of years ago required all schools in Detroit, traditionals and charter schools, to have an A through F system. But that law also said that until or unless there is a statewide system, then they go to the statewide system. So before this law was signed into law, was enacted, the CEC, the Community Education Commission down in Detroit, which included many stakeholders, of which Dr. Kiesler was a part of, to help walk them through the best way to get through an A through F system. They had developed their own recommendation that they were taking out to stakeholders around the city, and they were on their way to get to that. By this law passing, this creates a statewide A through F system, which means that it overrides anything that the city of Detroit had developed.
How are they different?
It also repeals 390 and 391.
Yeah.
Yep. Which was the creation of the A to F system for a community district such as DPSCD.
You know the difference between, maybe Vanessa, you're more familiar with the system they were supporting or developing as opposed to the system that was being imposed by the association.
You know, and I want to give a shout out to the CEC and the members of the team there. They had worked hard for 6 months to work across a diverse group of stakeholders to get to something that represented for Detroit charters and traditionals, something that they felt they could get around to help change performance at the school and the school and the classroom level. So Dr. Vitti was in the room, leaders from the charters. They talked a lot about driving practice and what they thought that looked like in Detroit. So high level, I mean, there's a lot of technical, you know, when you do comparison of accountability systems, it can get really nerdy really fast, so I'll spare you that. High level, the CEC system that they were getting ready to propose, the law actually, 380, 390, prescribed a higher percentage of growth than this new system, so it was much more growth-based. And it had more things in it like attendance of continuously enrolled students, it had some student surveys, it had some other components. So I think the big thing is that it was developed, because it was meant to be a local system, was developed by the local stakeholders who would be using it to drive, and now this is it's a statewide system. And so there's pros and cons, but the definite downside is it doesn't have that same local feel. I think the argument on the other side, to be fair, would be if we have local systems for everybody, how do you ever understand statewide performance and move forward as a state? So I think that those are the big differences.
Thank you.
Didn't it also take into account students who were chronically absent or did not attend the school for a certain amount of time throughout the year, so that the students who move from school to school or kind of show up on one day and then you don't see them for a while, they could take that into account as opposed to this system, which really doesn't?
Yep, they made some changes at kind of the calculation level to some metrics, things like 2 years continuously enrolled, removing chronically absent students from certain denominators. Again, places where they felt like for their local context, that would make the metric more relevant and measurable. That was the recommendation they were working toward. I want to also say the CEC had not formally adopted or voted on any of this. That's what was coming right as this bill got signed. So it was a hard stop all of a sudden for a group that had been really working hard to get across a certain finish line.
Thank you, Michelle. Cassandra?
Can you talk a little bit about the quote-unquote peer review panel that's consisting of 5 people, 3 of which I believe are appointed by the governor, correct? And the other 2 is at the state and house, or the House and Senate chairs appoint the other 2. What is the role of the panel? What is their authority? Just talk a little bit about that.
I think once the department develops the A through F system based on the particulars in the law, then that proposal goes to this peer review commission, which is yet to be named, and they have to review it and approve it.
So they approve, not just review, but they actually approve.
Hold on, let me check. I believe they.
Yeah.
Now, the peer review panel would have to submit its findings to MDE and the House and Senate Education Committees.
Okay, no approval.
No approval, I'm sorry, no approval.
Okay.
Just review, sorry.
So in practice, that's not vastly different than what we do now, where we take new systems to the legislature and explain, we take it to everybody and say, this is what we're thinking, this is, but I think it remains to be seen exactly how that would play out in practice, right?
So what is the role of the board then?
Well, I mean, the board is in charge of the superintendent, who's in charge of the department. So I think it's needing to get many players on the same page about something like accountability, which again is it's a space we are in a lot. So it just adds another formal entity to that, along with USED, who's got their own ideas about how this should play out. So.
And I think the bottom line is to have one statewide system, be it the ESSA plan that we have now, be it A through F, or be it whatever. And I think that if nothing happens, we will have 2 different systems at the same time, which would be very confusing to parents, to schools, to communities, and that's another issue that we're facing.
That we want to avoid.
That we want to
Yes,
avoid.
it is our goal to avoid having two systems,
Somehow.
two accountability systems. So I think it was Michelle, Tom, and Nikki, if I got it correct.
So I see it's review, but it seems like it's pushing on the constitutional role of the State Board of Education, and I don't know if this is something that should also be asked of our new Attorney General to look at with the shifting of other committees doing the work of the board. So I put that out there for consideration, for your consideration, for the board's consideration.
For a conversation when we meet with the
Right.
members of the Attorney General's office.
Yes.
I would also ask, I don't know what the formal process would be, but is there a way to ask for a stay of the law if it is found to be in violation of federal law, so we can figure out how to get past all of this? Which I don't know if that would be the Attorney General who would request that, or do we as the board have to make a request directly to the courts? I'm not sure how that would work.
So we can add that to the list of questions to ask the representatives of the Attorney General's office next week. I believe next was Tom.
So to be clear, and I fought this, that dreaded week of, the last week of lame duck, and I think a lot of us did. There is no summative grade.
That's correct.
There is only, so there's no F school. I anticipate some of the highest achieving schools in Oakland County, my alma, like Rochester Adams and many others, will get an F or a D on growth, because they're, way up there now. So I think at some point and I hope how this is done, I don't think, as I understand it, it's not prescriptive. It's not saying this is exactly what a D school will look like. I think that is up to MDE, and I sure hope that it comes before this board for approval or disapproval before it is implemented. And I'd be shocked and very disappointed if it doesn't. But I think that the way it's going to be implemented, there's going to be a ton of people a ton of representatives who voted for this are going to be scrambling to beg to repeal this law when they find out that some of the, their schools are going to get Ds and Fs when they are in some of the highest, highest achieving and, in some of these schools or richest areas. So, and I don't want to tweak and mess around with, it needs to be what it is. If this is what they want, then I think that's what's going to happen. And that's what happens when you pass stupid laws, very late and strong arm legislators for hours and hours and hours. And I tell you, that was what was going on. So yeah, I just wanted to, there is no summative grade, right?
Correct.
And I don't know how we would identify bottom 5 or anything like that. I'm glad there's no summative grade, and I'm glad that is not going to ever happen. But I guess we still have to run into what ESSA requires as well. So I'm not sure how we're going to square that, but I think it's important that we never have a summative grade, and I was glad that we at least got that out of there.
Mm-hmm. I would hope that we would only have one accountability system in the state and avoid having two of them. And the current legislation has parts of it that conflict with IDEA as well, or actually are in violation of IDEA and conflict with ESSA. So those are the conversations that we're going to be having with the U.S. Department of Education as well as with the Attorney General's office. I think, Nikki, it was next. You were next.
I just have a quick question about the Senate Bill 991, the school safety on okay to say. Do you know, I just have a few questions. What's the spirit of this bill? Is it to, so when a school district entertains a report of sexual assault, are they being encouraged to report it to okay to say, or how exactly do school districts encourage parents and the students that are victims to handle this? My gut would say they should be encouraged to file a police report, that would be their, obviously their choice, but it would be a recommendation. But I'm not sure based on what I'm reading here, is there like a change in direction in terms of what school districts are being encouraged to do report-wise?
Great question. And I may have to lean on because I'm a lifelong leaner, pursuant to our policy.
I like that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the OK to Say program obviously has been in existence for a while. So another piece of legislation actually removed the sunset, which is great, but then the bill that you're asking about simply adds to the list of things that
There's two things schools should do. They should encourage, I'm just acting out of reason and gut, but they should encourage the family to probably file a police report, and then the school will contact OK to Say.
or the individual.
Or the individual.
Michelle, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just, I wanted to get a better understanding of 4421, and exactly what the changes are from the current. Because my understanding is that the bar has been lowered significantly, but I just, who can be student teachers, but just sort of a thumbnail of what exactly those lowered, the differences are with this.
Substitute teacher or student?
Yeah,
Oh, student
substitute teaching, the first one on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basic student teacher.
So it doesn't actually change current practice for the department much at all. We already had the opportunity for such individuals to be placed in classrooms under an annual occupational authorization. It basically takes that and turns it into a permit for people to be placed into a classroom as a substitute teacher if they have a license in an applicable area where they would be teaching, or they had one and I believe it might have expired within 2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
That's the only, so as long as they have to have a teaching license.
No, they don't have to have a teaching license.
A license, so what?
It would be a license in whatever skill area, CTE area that they had worked in the past.
Occupational license.
Okay, so it's just, applies to CTE substitute teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And that means long-term subs as well as short-term.
I believe so, yes. So the annual occupational authorization, it already allowed that. And that was given to people on a basis of up to 10 years and then was renewable at the discretion of the superintendent. We had never reached the point where somebody had reached 10 years and requested one. It was
Would be a substitute for 10 years?
Potentially, not in the same classroom or anything.
Substitute?
Right, like I said,
Define
we
the
had never
definition of
reached, we
substitute.
had never had that actual scenario, but it was
Yeah.
possible in theory.
So just so prior to the legislation, it would have to be granted, you'd have to get permission by the department. Now they do not have to get permission by the department, or they still have to get permission by the
They
department?
still have to get permission. It's now just in the form of a permit, very similar to any other permit a substitute teacher would be receiving. I mean, I guess kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of the way that the department operates, you would normally get an annual occupational authorization through our CTE office, but now this permit is that you can get it through our Office of Educational Excellence, just as any other district would get a permit for placement for
And
a
that permit's
substitute
only
teacher.
good at that school?
Yes. Well, districts request them.
Because I thought when they would hire, they would have a waiver, but the teachers would have to get like a teaching certificate within a certain period of time. But under this, if they're a long-term sub, they would never have to acquire any other teaching certification or advancement in education, is that?
Yeah, I mean, the placement in individual classrooms is what's tracked. But as far as operating as a substitute teacher, that remains the same.
Okay, so they do, so if they're a long-term sub, they don't have to go get any more classes or any classes at all in education?
Only if they want to.
Only if they want, but they're not
act as an actual
required.
certified teacher, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Like it's just, I don't know, the term substitute teaching is here, but we're talking about longer term teaching. We're not talking about, am I correct? Or we're talking about your everyday substitute teaching. To me,
Everyday
this,
substitute teaching, so.
But they can be a
90
substitute for
days
10
up to a
years.
year.
yeah, then I think that that's
it's
where
both.
to me, I think that that's where this gets at. To me, I think that when we're talking about substitute teaching from periodically, from time to time, to me, this is opening the door for longer term subs or longer term, a teacher that doesn't have to be certified.
Yeah, so you could have an uncertified teacher in the school.
Yeah.
But this does apply to long-term subs.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, and I
yeah.
think that is really what it opens the door up to.
So I think the distinction is, in order to be a substitute teacher, now you have to have 60 credits from a university. But here you wouldn't have to have those credits, you would have to have a license in the applicable field in which you would be placed.
Okay.
Wouldn't have to have any education training, and you could be a teacher for 10 years.
Well, it would be
But it's
higher
for-
education
So
in
this
order
is
to
for a
receive the
CTE
license.
program
Yes.
specifically. So you have, I mean, really, just to step out here of the box, you know, to be a teacher of a course to allow somebody to become a nurse aide or I mean, not a teacher's assistant, but it's something that's specific to CTE, you're not going to take somebody who's gotten their teaching degree and certification in reading literacy necessarily and say, you're qualified for this, but not the nurse, right? So to me, that's what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, if you have a
It's
license
very
through
applicable to,
Lara,
yeah.
then you would be able to take that and use it to be a substitute teacher in a CTE program.
CTE, yes.
Yeah.
So this is very legitimate. I mean, I feel like for,
I would say
And
if
it's
it
also
was
an
adults,
opportunity that was
maybe,
already allowed.
but if it's
Right.
K-12, I mean, to me, if it's younger people and you've got a wide variety of,
but there are K-12
Learning needs.
programs specifically that are CTE, like, so once you, upon graduation of high school, you've gotten a certain certification, like in welding or nursing
Right.
assistance. So you want the person in the expertise in the field
Right.
to be able to do that.
Yeah, I want them to
They
have
shouldn't
both.
have to go back and get like a master's degree in teaching to be qualified as the expertise in there. I don't know.
I think if you're going to be a teacher, you should be trained as a teacher, and you should also know the content, just as anybody. An English teacher has to know the content of English, and they have to know how to teach. I think if you're teaching welding, you should know welding, but you should also know how to teach. So
Right.
that's my only thing. And I can see if you're an adult, you know, when you're, and you're learning a skill, but being in a classroom and being able to manage a classroom, being able to understand some of the learning, you have kids with learning disabilities, you have a wide variety of kids. I think to go from having at least 60 credits to having nothing in teaching is I mean, I understand what you're saying, and that,
And
you
to
know,
be a
it's important
substitute
if
teacher
it's a
for 60
skill
credits.
base. But I still think if you're a teacher, you should be trained as a teacher, you know.
Well, the districts have the bottom line on this. I mean, they can continue to decide whether to employ that substitute teacher or not, or to, you know, require additional training for the substitute teacher. I mean, they still get, the teacher, whether under this program or if they have a, you know, certification, they still have to be effective, I would think. And it's still a decision up to the local district to continue to employ that substitute.
Not the brother-in-law, the principal, or, anyway, I'm a favor, but anyway, sometimes that happens too, you know?
Right.
You know?
Right. Thank you, Michelle. Are there any other questions on the lame duck legislation?
And I look forward to working with the Legislative Committee, Chairman Lupe, and to work on agendas for the board this coming session. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Will you be planning for us to meet with the legislative
Yes.
leaders committee?
Yes.
Do that in like March?
Yeah. Schedule that in March.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Bipartisan.
Bipartisan State
Sorry?
Board of Ed priorities.
Discussion of bipartisan State Board of
M1.
Education priorities. Marty, still you. My bad, Marty.
When is our meeting in March with legislators?
What?
When is our meeting in
I
March?
thought
with
I was
legislators?
holding me back.
I think it's just at our regular board meeting and then we'll break for lunch. It's a longer lunch.
Hey, welcome. So as I said in my once we're parting comments, yes, we're going to be working, I guess, on priorities for the next session, for this session, this coming session. So I don't know how you'd like to proceed with that discussion.
Comments from Cassandra?
Just based on the conversation we've had, I think two of the things that I would recommend the legislative committee take a look at would be the 22P and maybe asking the governor's office to consider zeroing that out if that is in fact what we think is a good idea. And then also the accountability system. What's in law right now is one thing, but is there a way to either rescind that law or to replace it with something that simply says the MDE will create an accountability system and that'll be, that's that. It's up to the MDE to create that system. So those would be my two recommendations right off the bat.
Okay.
Michelle?
I would like to see some more review of the teacher evaluation system and how effective that actually is and how valid it is. Also, the tax credits that have been handed out, like Halloween candy, and its effect on funding, education funding, municipal funding, but education for us, and not just now, but in the long term. And with that, the whole idea of what is it, a better funding model. We haven't really looked at those, the research. I mean, we've had people speak on it, but to use the research and the reports that were done both in Oakland County and elsewhere around education funding. So I think we should take a more role in pushing for improving the funding model.
Okay, thank you. Nikki, going right down the line.
I would like to just understand more of these student safety acts that surround sexual assault, because I think that they're definitely making a statement that sexual assault as a culture is something that's pretty pervasive in our country, definitely our state and our schools. So exactly how will these bills improve that culture? And just precisely what are they doing for our kids and bringing safety to their school system? And then also just kind of getting more specific about what the consequence is for sexual assault in schools. And so that's something I think that the legislative committee can work with our legislature on.
Okay, I'm going to come back to Cassandra for another item.
So Nikki actually reminded me of something that was on my list, and that is when I took a look at what we teach in our schools regarding sexual assault. Consent is not part of that. Mm-hmm. And I think we should actually ask the legislature to make sure that that schools, when they're teaching this stuff, include definitions of consent and what that actually means.
Role model it, or role play it, if you will.
I'll go this, I'm going to go down, then I'm going to come back. Tiffany.
Okay, coming up to Lupe, Pam.
I guess
for me, one of the questions that I have is that there's EPA funding, and I know that the Kyle has seen funding around water testing in schools, and so there's funding that went to EPA, and I think MDEQ would have had to request that funding, but to Michigan Department of Environmental Quality would have to request that funding, and I don't know if we've requested any of the funding. I think it was like $20 million that went across the whole country, but, oh, they did apply, okay. I guess in seeing how we're working to strengthen what's required of schools as it relates to our statement that we made and ensuring monitoring, testing, and maintenance of water so that the quality of water is safe for all children.
Specific to schools, Pam, or
Specific to schools.
Okay.
And childcare facilities, childcare providers. Okay, and to Tom.
Yeah, I mean, the topic is bipartisan priorities. I have other priorities that may not be quite bipartisan, but they might. I mean, I'm working on it. But I do think that a couple that would come to mind would be, I don't even want to see what the teacher eval. I just want to repeal it. I mean, as far as the state the state prescriptively saying it's going to be these. I know there's supposed to be options, but I don't think they're really working out. So I would just assume the state get out of that and let it back to the locals. Maybe have some transparency, require them to post what they do. That's what I had in my bill that was an alternative to teacher evals when I was in the legislature. I also am concerned about data privacy. I think that can be a bipartisan issue, and so even some have talked about, I think I had legislation with Ellen Lipton about requiring parental approval when there was, what exactly you can collect on my child as far as data and things like that. So, and then maybe it was already mentioned, but just repeal of 8F. Did you? Yeah, okay. Yeah, just repeal it. Yeah.
Okay, that is a very ambitious agenda. Anything else? Anyone have anything else? Okay, we're good. Marty, you're all set. I believe you are all set. Thank you. Now we will go on to the consent agenda. So this is a time when I could please have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, we have it moved by Cassandra, supported by Pam. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I thought about removing O and P and voting on them separately, but I'll just vote no on the consent agenda. And I know, I find that some of the I find compelling some of the studies out there that show that benefits of early childhood and Great Start and things like that, the benefits are questionable, and a lot of them evaporate after a few years. So just as far as whether they're worth it, and also child development psychologists who are concerned about kids being in a formal education setting too early, and that it's could be harmful to them. And so I know in some instances it's probably helpful, but I think once you start giving a lot of money out there, all of a sudden vendors come up with ways to get that money. And so I think it's pretty consistent with how I was in the legislature. And so I'll be voting no, and we'll just get a no just for the heck of it, but O&P.
I have a quick question about those grants. Those are the grants we were talking about earlier, correct? That are systems implementation.
Yes.
I was just going to ask earlier, but did not. What exactly what does that mean? Like, how are we? What systems are we implementing? What are the actual activities that are baked into that? And then once the systems are implemented, is that money then going to go to actually delivering services? How does that all work?
So I'm going to turn to our Deputy Superintendent, Scott Kennischek, who will be able to answer those questions or have, and here is Lisa Brewer-Walraven. Come back up, Lisa.
Can you go to the table so we can hear?
I didn't know if you saw me.
I was going to start.
Perfect.
You want to go ahead and? I'll jump in, or do you just want me to go? So the systems building work, currently, Scott mentioned earlier that that funding goes to one entity. That entity is implementing the training and technical assistance for the Great Start Collaboratives and parent coalitions and the Great Start to Quality resource centers that are across the state, as well as handling the day-to-day implementation of Great Start to Quality, which is the rating system that we use for licensed child care providers in Michigan. So it's taking that bigger body of systems building work and allowing for it to be competitively bid in the criteria that we shared with you.
So, and I have to be honest, I've had somebody reach out to me pretty consistently. She was here at one of our meetings that discussed this rating system. So we're putting this money into the rating system. Doesn't necessarily translate to services provided to kids. And some of these people, like especially in the areas of Detroit, are working their tails off to get a good rating. But then, like, we just increased the minimum wage to $15, and they don't have the business resources to make it, to even pay their employees. So there's something missing on top of that, I'm just wondering, like, it's just interesting that they keep reaching out and saying there's a problem. So even as we are putting all of this money into the systems implementation, I'm just wondering, because I don't have all the information, so I don't even know if I can ask the questions that I'm thinking about, but I'm just wondering if there are some significant holes that maybe I can't define.
Well, we know when we heard them come this past summer, I believe, one of my first meetings here regarding the provider rates that they're reimbursed at, and we know that we're encouraged to try to get to that 75th percentile. We know that we certainly advocate, we'd love to be there today, but that involves an appropriation from the legislature as well. But I understand what you're saying, because there is this need to improve quality, and so they're working to improve quality to get a higher rating, but at the same time, they can't pay their employees. So we have partial control over that, which is the rating system itself. We would love to go to 75th percentile on market rates, more if we could. So I think I hear what you're saying. I see both sides of the coin, but we only have control over one aspect of that at this point, and that's making sure that there is a quality protocol that's in place. And we've seen higher ratings of quality over the years. We're now, I believe, 51%.
50%.
51% now, or 3 or above, correct? So we're seeing gains in terms of the quality of services being offered to kids in the programs.
Okay, Michelle?
You know, I had the luxury of having my kids have a stay-at-home parent. My husband stayed home for 6 years while I worked. But most people that I know don't have that luxury. And so the kids are going to be having to be taken care of by someone, you know. So I think it's important to have good quality programming. And even though it's imperfect, because I think mostly due to underfunding, I think it's important to strive to get the best quality care that we can for the kids and parents who really rely on these services because they have to work, because the minimum wage isn't $15 an hour. But anyway, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. So anyway, so I think it's important to support these initiatives just because, you know, we've got to have the best quality of care for these kids that we can figure out with the resources that we have. So.
Thank you. Any other board members care to comment? Okay. Seeing none then, may I please have those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay.
I believe we have 6 ayes and 2 nays, so the motion carries. Moving on then to comments by State Board of Education members. Are there any board members who wish to provide comments other than what was already stated earlier today?
Well,
Yes.
I guess I could just welcome Judy and Tiffany and look forward to working with you. as you saw, there are some areas where there's not complete agreement among the 8 of us, but there is a tremendous amount of agreement. And Judy, you've come to many of these meetings, probably every one of them almost. But so you know that that's the case. In the last 2 years, I truly appreciate all the members here at this table, and look forward to working with you both and everybody.
And Judy.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for the warm welcome, and I certainly agree with Tom that this body is always looked to the bigger picture. And for that, I appreciate that and hope to be a productive member of this group in any way that I possibly can. I also want to do a shout out to the staff. They have been extremely helpful. Any questions I've had, they've been great about answering questions and offering assistance, so I appreciate that also. Thank you.
Pam?
I just want to welcome again our 2 new members. I look forward to serving in the capacity with you and in the new capacity on the executive committee. We don't always agree, but we definitely have made strides in working together. I think that during the lame duck, there was quite a few assaults that could have really disrupted the work that we have before us, and that we're up for the task to make sure that we move forward and accomplish for the students and the children of Michigan. So I think that was us working together, working very hard. Tom, I know you worked very hard, and Cassandra and others, and so we staved off a lot of things that could have affected the work that we're going to do. I just want to speak to, we had 2 speakers, and one was talking about the shortage of educators. So we've had some conversations here that kind of delve into that realm, but I know that we're working hard to make sure that we get educators into the pool, but we know that there are districts that definitely need that work to move much more quickly. The other piece was that we were invited to an event, and I think that we received that in our email. That's Friday. I know I signed up. I'm not sure if I'll be able to go. That was the We the People, the contest, because I think that we were asked, at least I received something to be a judge. I'm going to try my best to get there on Friday. I did not receive a message back when I did enter my information to volunteer, but we did receive that, and I know that myself and others would hope to be a part of that.
Thank you, Pam. And Tiffany?
Earlier in one of the presentations, we were talking about the community meetings that will take place, and there are 5, and I am hoping that we can include a 6th one in Wayne County, because I think that the program that we talked about would be great throughout the state, but I know that it would hugely affect Wayne County. There are about 43 communities. It's the largest county in Michigan. And a lot of those pockets there, the schools, it's some of our poorest districts. And the community can't always travel far. So I'm hoping that, and DPSCD, Highland Park, Western Wayne, some of those schools could really benefit from this. So I'm hoping that we could go there. I also want to say thank you so much to everybody, our interim superintendent, the staff here at MDE, the board. Like Judy said, you guys gave us a really warm welcome. This transition has been smooth, and I appreciate everybody for that. And I take this role very seriously. Today, I'm missing the homegoing of one of my mentors. And she she really poured into me at different seasons of my life. And education was big to her. And teaching parent leadership and empowering parents was big to her. So I just wanted to say to Brenda Jenkins and her family, please give them, your warm thoughts and prayers.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no one else, then we'll go on to the future meeting dates. We have 3 meetings planned for the immediate future. They are Tuesday, February 12th, 2019, At 9:30 a.m., this is a regular meeting held here in the boardroom, followed by Tuesday, March 12th, 2019, again, 9:30 a.m., right here in the boardroom. It is a regular meeting. And then Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, at 9:30 a.m. again, and it's right here in the boardroom. For our future agenda, are there topics that board members would like us to include on these agendas? You can let us know now, or you can let us know in the near future. So I'll open it up to any suggestions that you may want to offer now.
Brought up last time, but someone from Kyle, I know spoke to it, but to speak on the implementation, the ACLU has some research on implementation of the punishment, the school climate data about the expulsion, suspension, and how it's being implemented, and some problems they're having with that. That was, I would like for them to come and speak about exactly what the concerns are that they see. There's also people from United Way that have been doing research on early childhood. They have an app that they use to help parents identify if their kids are having some learning problems, and then connecting them to resources. I would like to see more of what they're doing and maybe have them present as well. I forgot, it's called something to backpacks, bibs to backpacks, or I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking? Are you familiar with
But we can do some research on it.
Okay.
And
okay.
we can get an answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
And we will add those two topics then to our agenda planning list. And again, if you have additional, okay, Nikki.
I've had some individuals just reach out to me, and I think we've talked about this before at the board table, just something that relates to student data privacy and health information.
Right.
And I think she's still working on trying to present, so I'll probably email, I don't know, maybe I'll just forward her most recent email so we can try to get that on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you have additional topics, please let us know, because the upcoming week, we will be working on putting together a draft for the February board agenda. And at this time, I would like to thank our staff members who were involved in today's meeting, whether they were involved in planning, coordinating, or presenting today. Thank them for their participation, and also thank the State Board of Education members for your investment, your commitment, and your involvement in education for the children of this great state of Michigan. So thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.